Welcome to the Node.js meeting on August 29th, and I'm going to share my screen. Cool, it should be the Node API project board. Can you see my screen clearly?
Yep.
Great. Let's see if there's anything in the down list that's new. Yeah, we have 3 documentation updates being landed in the past weeks. And one of them, I think they are inspired by the change proposed by the NPI Rust author. So we will be able to get a better visibility of the Node API language support in various programming languages, in addition to the official C++ wrapper Node add-on API. We'll also be able to link to the um, other languages that's being listed in the ABS stable node repository. It's being listed here. So yeah, great.
Yeah, I think we all saw the original merge request of trying to add the Rust module to the official Node API documentation page. And we were pretty much all on the same page to that, we should link to this instead, and I think we put all of our reasoning on that closed merge request.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's worth noting that there are multiple Rust bindings out there. I don't think we should in favor of any of them. I mean, they are all equal in the view of the node.js project. So I think a list to with all of them should be preferred instead of just one of them.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't know like how well other been maintained, but I guess
I
they
think
also should working
Neon,
hard on all of them, right?
yeah, Neon is another well-maintained Rust bindings as well. Um, if I'm not sure about the Snappy NPICs, yeah, this might be outdated for a while, but I think NPI and Neon should be the two most well-maintained Rust bindings on Node
Yeah.
API.
Yeah, they look pretty solid.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
and in
think
that list of bindings, we state that, like we don't validate or prefer any of them either. It's just a list for
Yeah.
people's reference, and I think that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Cool.
Mhm.
Anything else worth mentioning in the down list?
Mm-mm.
Not. Maybe we can jump to the progress and in progress tasks. I think we had the enum value ABI stability clarification progress landed. This pro this pull request about float 16 array should be able to proceed. Thank you, Kevin, for posting the updates here last week.
Mhm.
In addition to the change you mentioned, I think we will also have to add a new status API not supported so that this pull request can be backport to Node v22 as well, because we don't have float 16 array in v22.
Mhm. Yes. Do we have an issue tracking that?
No, I don't think we are going to support that because that will require a update about V8, and that's not our policy to update V8 in old LTS versions.
Yeah, I mean an issue to track the fact that we need to add an API not supported.
No, I think I added the suggestion here to add it in this pull request so that this can be backported together.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, okay. So then the header file would declare this new enum value, but then it would only be used inside the backports.
Yes,
Yes.
in the backport we will be returning this status directly instead of actually creating the flow 16 array if in the API create array API.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So otherwise, I don't think this program can be solely backported because we don't have the create a flow 16 array in the V22 LTS line.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. So this is unblocked. And anything else people would like to bring up first before we jump to the list?
It was a big update on thread safe functions, and Kevin said we would like to discuss today.
Yes, I think it's the one that you have at the bottom of this I think it's assigned to Gabe. This one here, 55877. In progress. Yeah,
This one?
that one. I think it's that one.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Yes. Because this is a pretty old pull request, and the author recently rebased and fixed linting issues and whatnot. Um, and I think there was something that we both thought, because Vladimir, you commented on this too, and I was trying to wrap my head around why this was added also, was deleting the instance inside of the push. So from my understanding, what they did in this merge request is they, instead of the thread safe function extending async resource, it uses in composition. So now there's a member that it holds that is an async resource. So that's one. And then two, instead of having a Boolean is closing, they have a state enum that's either open, closing, or closed. And then they have also some changes in how the instance gets deleted and at what point. Um, Still trying to, and then this example I think was worked also with Gabe when he was still looking at this. So Gabe and the poster sort of made this example together. And I also compiled this branch to run against our node add-on API tests, and those all passed as well. But it could be a case with the question that both Vladimir and I had about this deleting the instance on the push. It could be a case that we just don't have a test case that would run into this code path. I'm not exactly sure. The question that
Kevin,
I
you
had,
know this code a bit better than me. Sorry to interrupt you. The question was like, if you look on the old code, we said line 253, it was there like thread count minus minus. I was wondering like, why we reduce ref count in push method before? Do you know?
yes, because if the thread safe function is in the process of closing, so you've called abort on it, or a thread has called abort on it, any subsequent call to call the thread safe function will return closing and decrease the thread count. And the thought is that any thread that did not, so the thread that did not call abort is not yet aware that the thread safe function is closing. So when it calls ascend, it'll get back saying it's closing, and then your thread needs to then handle the fact that the thread safe function is not available to use. So it's a way to notify the other threads that it's no longer available to be used. And then the thought is that once those other threads have all gotten an API closing, then the thread safe function, the count should be 0, and then it can be properly cleaned up. That's the
So,
mentality behind it.
but this what probably explains why I have delete statement there, because I first of all saw delete and I was like, oh, a surprise. But then I saw this thread count being decremented, and maybe the author is correct, because technically if we decrement this ref count, maybe we also have to delete that. To me, like it looks so surprising, like because that sounds like if you do like a push, like if you call function, right, and it gives you that closing, you don't have to call a release on it anymore. Is it
That is
right?
correct. You do not call release if you get a closing. Mm-hmm.
Do we don't document it anywhere?
It's probably documented in the an API call thread safe function, or maybe I guess it's there in the mode. Let's see, is blocking an API will return an API closing if was called an abort set. This value is only added to the queue. Blocking the queues may cause thread safe. Can you check the release function call again? I think it might have been there. Just,
To me, it
it's
sounds so confusing, honestly. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
to indicate that it's make no in addition, no other thread should make any further calls. If set to further calls, so it will return closing and no further threads. Maybe it's not explicitly there, but that is how it's meant to be implemented. If you get a closing, you don't need to call release.
But don't you? To me, it sounds like a bug, honestly. No, just I understand. Like, we can't call function anymore, right? But
Let's
the
see.
talk about resources, we typically saying like acquire and release. Maybe missing something. But it used to be there in old code. But since we're fixing the code, the question like, do we want to fix it so it works correctly? Um,
Changing that behavior, I don't think would be a good idea, because then add-ons would need to call release if they see closing. I mean, I might be getting the.
but maybe it's exactly what people have in issues with this code, because they think like, if, for example, somebody is a good programmer and say like, okay, I have a thread which has acquire and release, and suddenly on my release, just because somebody else said abort, right? On my release, I have kaboom, right?
Oh
Because
yeah, that is how it's meant to be used. Right. So if you have 4 threads using it and you call release on one thread without the abort flag, then the other threads can still call it. It's when you pass the abort flag in to release, then the thread count will get decremented when you try to call. Yes, that is how that functions work. And I don't that
why?
is just how
I
it is.
Why do has somebody decided to do this way? I mean, I understand like about the support and stuff, but what I really kind of to me like it just kind of like a big red flag that why in the world like a calling function would cause thread count due to decrement? It's just it's so
Yeah, maybe it was implemented that way so that you don't have to call the release if you get a closing. I mean,
But imagine like
I
if
don't
I
know.
do any other language besides C, like I do like C++, I do C sharp, any language which I would typically have some kind of scoping things, like for example, it's RAI stuff and stuff. To me, it will be extremely, extremely difficult to make this code work correctly for any wrappers, effectively. Um,
I think essentially the intention was that people should just go npm release thread function, and they should not bot unless it's in a very critical path that they already have the working worker threads being disposed, and they want to release the thread function immediately.
Right. And I think if you, it would also be weird to call the thread safe function and get a status back that says closing and then try to release it. I think that is also part of the initial implementation design. Because if you get a status back that says it's closing, why would I need to worry about releasing it? Because it is already closing. To me, that would be odd.
then whatever author did, like by calling this delete method, it just then it sounds like it's perfectly right because I guess what they're doing that saying if ref count becomes 0, you must delete. Like then whatever
Right.
I ask this question, it was stupid, totally stupid on my side. And
No, I mean, I think it
I don't,
still is valid to point out because my question is like, what happens to the remaining entries in the queue? That because deleting the instance would call this release resources, but that does not empty the queue. So I'm not sure
but I
without
guess like
testing it. Or I don't even know if those items should be
wait.
the queue should be emptied because say your thread save function, you have some dynamically allocated data that was put into your queue, and you need your call.js function to be called so that you can delete that data. So that in my mind, the queue should be deleted. And that was one of the bugs that we had in the Node add-on API wrapper for the thread safe function class, which was fixed in the typed thread safe function class. In the former, there was a scenario where your call.js would not be called and you could have memory leaks. And that's documented in Node add-on API's README about the two differences. Um, so for me, that's why I'm wondering if that delete would actually still call would empty the queue.
Right. So technically, you notice that instead of having just Boolean flag, now we have enum, which I have open, closing, and closed.
Mhm.
And this code is only executed in case if, first of all, thread count is 0, and second, that the close is true. So it means what I assume that the closing, and we pretty much we don't need thread say function anymore. It can't be executed anymore, but probably we still have items there. And I would assume that closed state is actually when this queue is actually already empty. So it's good time to delete it. Uh, so I just didn't know like that previous decision was actually having kind of call function to behave pretty much the same as the release function in case of closing state. So it's probably surprising to me, but author did probably this PR did a good job just kind of following the previous protocol.
Yeah, I'll need to big little.
We need to, can we find that where this closed state is being set, when we set closed instead of closing?
It's probably here.
Yeah, over here is. And basically it says like,
And there's another, yeah, it's only here. So this is being called, this release sources function is being called here and in the destructor as well.
Right. And we see that the empty queue and maybe delete this function here. This is the one that does the call JSCB on 313 for all of the entries in your queue. But this empty queue and maybe delete does not get called in the destructor. So if you say delete this, empty queue and maybe like you still have entries in your queue that don't get cleaned up. That's
but
that's
but
how
it will
I'm
be,
reading.
it will not called because the state is not closed. So
Okay, let me
this
update
this
it here.
this function will be called only. Delete will be, well, it's the code will be called only if close is true. I mean, like state is equal to closed, and closed will be if we see queue already empty, right?
Yes. Okay. This is the not equal to and. Okay. Yes.
So this is how we empty queue, like over here, like assigning to empty state.
There's this for loop on 312 that pops entries from the queue
Okay.
and does that call JSCB. And then that passing the null pointer as the environment and something else that signifies that the thread safe function is shutting down, and it gives you your opportunity to, for example, call a delete on the data that's coming in on the queue.front that gets passed to your call JSCB.
So should we just simply ask, add a small comment explaining why it happens? Because technically, to me, it was surprise, but surprise was actually probably not caused by PR itself, but more like how this original logic was written.
Yeah. Um,
And we definitely need to update comments because technically, to me, it's totally unsurprised, totally surprised behavior actually.
yeah. I think I just know it because I ran into it working with them. Right. But no, yeah, I think you're right. It would only call delete when it is closed. And if it's closed, then you know that um, empty queue and maybe delete was called.
Think I will need to take a deeper look at this progress to understand the context about the race condition here.
Yeah, I didn't really understand the race condition part to begin with. Um,
So
No, I
does
think
the test file added in this progress fail for the current main branch?
the author said that it is only reliably reproducible under Valgrind on the main branch.
I see.
guess scenario is quite simple. I think like, based on the fact that this new implementation of thread safe function is not inherited anymore from async function. So what might happen that this async resource it actually then is deleted. Some other threads can still use the thread safe functions, and suddenly they can maybe using something which already been deleted by someone else. That's why kind of I guess main reason to kind of replace inheritance with this usage. So in this case, this async resource can be deleted by whatever event loop, whatnot. But our threads say function lifetime being controlled through its state and through thread count.
Mm.
It's what I assume it main purpose of this change. Again, I didn't look through the old code yet. I was hoping to understand this part first, but yeah.
And also, like I mentioned, this was an old merge request from sometime last year, and Gabe did also work with the poster about it. I think it sort of just dropped off of the radar at some point.
It looks quite solid. Like let's just spend some time to review it, and but otherwise, it like looks pretty good. Main reason I want to look with thread say function, I need to do it like for Hermes and trying to understand what's the logic. To me, like it's a total surprise.
Well, I'm glad I could shed some light on this closing status. Yes.
So can we ask author to update documentation? It would be or like it should be part of next PR because technically
I think it could be separate.
separate.
Yeah, I think it would be separate because it's not really changing any of the functionalities or anything like that. And like we could also just update the documentation now without even having this merged in. If you're referring to like clarification of the NAPI closing status and not needing to call release if you get that, yeah,
Yeah,
that would
yes.
be that
Because
could be.
technically, you're right. We probably can't change his behavior anymore. Even it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
But at least we need to
Yeah,
document.
yeah,
Mhm.
if this does not change the documented behavior, we can have a follow-up request to update the document.
Yep. Makes sense.
So let me answer to this thread, and I'll close this thing because I think it's I said, I'm not familiar with code and don't know all details. I likely do not understand some basics. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
it's good.
Uh, and then this is the only one that I've had time this week to really to look at. Yeah, and
So
like
what
I
would
said,
you,
the node add-on API tests still work with this branch as well.
what's your overall perception? Like, does it look solid?
I think so, yes. I think that separating from is closing into the three states is also really nice. I think it
Okay.
makes it a little more readable. Um, so I will also update my comment because yeah, we it as this discussion we had, it makes sense that this delete would only happen if it is closed, which means release the queue should already be emptied. But I want to take another deeper look at that to make sure that my
Yeah,
assumption is correct.
I think I will need some time to understand the status machine here better.
Mhm.
Cool. Anything else for this podcast?
And then I guess part of the change is since now there's this state, three-way state, it also makes it a little easier because you can see on the left with is closing, is thread count 0 or whatever. So he's able to sort of check those states differently and then return statuses earlier. So you don't have a lot of nested ifs going in and whatnot. So I think
Yeah,
that is also part of the readability increase here. But yeah, if you have some additional time. Like I'm not sure what the race condition was, but it would be I hopefully can have some time to look more into that. And if I do have some time, I can try running the test on the main this new test on the main branch in Valgrind to see if it does have issues. I'm assuming it will because otherwise this merge request wouldn't have been created. But hopefully I'll have some time this week.
I think the description says like what's the race. But, yeah.
It's threads can still valid handle after
Oh, it's handles. Can still hold the valid handled after finalization is triggered by abort environment shutdown. So technically, idea that imagine you have some other threads still kind of in holding to thread safe functions while it's already been shut down, and if they call something, probably it's causing these issues.
Yeah, but that should have already, like, if you release with a board, you're technically allowed to have a handle to the thread safe function, and it should only finalize when every other thread has called either release or call. So there's some like this handled this by must have been needed in order to correctly use that behavior. Like that behavior is expected to have a handle to the thread safe function after it's released. But I think how we were handling it might have been incorrect. And then that was causing the race condition.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I do recall that there was an issue about that when the environment is being shut down. The tester function workthreads are still being active and hold the reference to the tester function, and there might be a risk condition there that both party tries to access the tester function and the main thread is trying to delete the tester function because it's the finalization is being forced at the environment being shut down.
Right. Right. Okay.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. I think I will need to take a deeper look at this progress to understand the race condition and the patch here.
Mhm.
And yeah, please take a look at this progress as well again.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, let's probably spend a little bit more time to reviewing it, but it seems to be a very, very good change.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Anything else on this progress?
Nope.
Yeah. We can
Great.
move next.
Please take a look at the progress after the call. And I think this shared array buffer API is also ready for review again. Um, the failing
Right.
tests
I think
are
it
non-relevant if I recall correctly.
I think it was like the linter or something, if my memory serves correct.
Here
Conflicts.
there's a conflict. Yeah.
Yeah. But the overall implementation, I think, is ready. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I
I think
think the
we
this
did look at this last week, didn't
And there was
we?
some kind of blocking issue, if I remember correctly.
I don't think the this progress has any blocking issues.
No, I think it was not pull request itself, but technically whatever pull request was using, it was at least something what we discussed last time. Right?
I don't remember.
Kevin, do you remember? Like it was something like
Yeah, because I remember looking at well, yeah, I we can look offline. I do remember it was either this one or typed array. It was some array that, but can absolutely continue looking at this.
Can we look through discussion list? It was probably we saw something in discussion and we understood that the authors kind of works on trying to resolve this issue.
I think this pull request, the discussion in this pull request are being resolved.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then we should probably just let's have a look and probably should go from.
Right.
Cool. Please take a look at this pull request again, and I will ask the author to rebase to resolve the conflicts.
Cool.
And then I think we should be able to proceed with this pull request. Thank you very much.
It's a very important functionality, sure buffers.
Um, Anything else to bring up first before we jump to the detailed list?
No, I don't have anything.
Right. I think, yeah, this one was blocked. And
Oh yeah, sorry, I was confused with this preserve URL stuff. Yes, sorry, it's me. Yes, it's
yeah,
not
no
shared buffer
worries.
with block, but with a URL file names block.
Right.
Yes,
Yes, that's the one we talked about
yes,
because there's the
yes.
Yeah.
I'm
standards
sorry. I
change.
totally misled you guys. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry about that.
Right. Okay. It's been a long week.
All right. I think at the last 20 minutes, we can jump to the charge list. I think there are several new progress. This might be the first one.
Yes, this is something that we talked about last week, um, because an API delete reference does not check if you're in garbage collection or not. And since and then since there's no GC check, we can use a basic env.
So, Ching John, I want pretty much ask you because I remember at some point I believe it was you who said that we should actually have this NAPI delete reference not to check GC status because we have to call this method from our finalizer methods under some condition.
Yeah, I do recall that there was a discussion about making this as a basic API, but I think it was in the node add-on API change. Um,
So,
but I think that was another um create a reference and reference ref, reference unref. Yeah, if I recall correctly, there was a to-do mark in the reference destructor. So let's see. I think it's probably in the remove wrap.
or remove wrap.
No,
We
probably
can do
not.
basic on remove wrap. Can we? Because removing wrap would require probably some changes, right?
Um, it might not be this one. I think might be. Yeah,
Right.
right. That's it. Yeah, I think it's a valid change. I think the last time we said that we should um allow that's change. We should already allow it.
Yeah, we changed that
Oh,
macro call, but we didn't change the prototype.
We didn't change the function signature.
The signature.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. You're correct. I think we should update the signature.
Okay. All right.
When was discussion like last week, if we're ready to have this new finalizers to go to this Node API version 11, and I kind of recalled this issue, and I said like it's probably worth us to make this change before we cut 11 version and put these finalizers there.
Yeah, right, correct.
Okay, so we have this to do. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, perfect. And then in the issue that I created for that,
I
uh,
think we can probably link to these two lines here. Um, Next.
right.
Okay.
And then this, there's a comment here by this uh, person here that asks if they could raise a pull request, and I guess they can. I just wanted to wait until we had this discussion to validate. So,
Well,
or what?
I mean, I don't know why people are asking for permission to submit a pull request. They should be able to submit it directly. I can mention them,
Yeah. Okay.
but I would avoid assigning the issue to them. That would prevent others
I agree.
to grab the task, because I've seen cases that people asking if they can raise a pull request and then disappear. So that's I would rather that we wait for a week. If the person didn't pick up the um pull request, didn't pick up the task, we can just go ahead and change it.
That
Yeah.
sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I think, yeah, I agree that this should be a blocker to the version 11. Then we should be able to change the Node add-on API as well, and we can remove this, um, and then we can delete it directly. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. I think this should be in the to-do list, given that we agreed that we should pick this up. Maybe we can move it up here. And next is this one. It's a documentation only change,
Mhm.
and I would agree that the format of the Node add-on API documents is not very good. Like, there are several non-conventional Markdown formats in this Markdown file. So yeah, please take a look, and I think the podcast should be generally good.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else to chat about before we dropping out?
If we all like, I have just a few random questions. So, technically, like last couple months, I was working on enabling Node API tests for effectively for Hermes and stuff. And there are a bunch of different things I want to probably kind of push back on inside of node.js, and just kind of curious about picking up some of your opinion. If can we look inside of this? I think like it's inside of JS native API unit test for I think a generic or general. Uh, at some point, then we test I think instance of. We kind of have a reference to yeah, just native
Um,
API. It's a general or generic, general, and we have a test for if you look at JavaScript instance of. So what we're doing here, like we pretty much we're looking inside of V8 source code and we're picking up some test cases from V8 source code.
Yep.
So what, like at least in my case, I had to effectively copy and paste kind of instead of going to V8 source code because I'm technically testing against the Hermes engine.
Yep.
Instead, I have those tests here. So technically, I wonder if you guys would you have any opinion if I will just simply change this test so it does not refer to V8 code anymore. If you look on top of the file, you will see that we're trying to grab um, some code from V8. You see over here, like line 11, we doing this.
I don't recall why it depends on the V8 test here.
Because what I want all these tests to be kind of standalone. So in this case, ideally, this test can be used against different runtimes, not in kind of different environments. So imagine we have this node API test, which we can test in different kind of cases and don't have to do all this kind of tweaks and stuff. And since they code, I believe, also MIT, so we can definitely kind of put the reference, yes, this code kind of borrowed from V8 project, but for the sake of us being self-contained, if you will, it's
I
better to have.
think it was added in the first iteration of Node API. We should probably get rid of this V8 test dependencies. We should not. uh, in a worst case, we should just copy them into this directory instead of depending on V8, because I don't think these tests are public. Should be public depended on because they are via internal tests.
Right. Yeah, and I made those stuff copied, and like in my case, it kind of worked. I just I can actually promote this change to node.js project as well.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
So like I see like these small issues like this there and there. So technically, I just want to us to be on the same page if I bring it, so there'll be no surprise what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it will be weird that we depend on the V8 test files to test Node API. I would rather that we copy the content of the test file instead.
Yeah, it's exactly what I've done.
Yeah,
I kind
sure.
of put the kind of comments that yes, this code actually kind of originally been part of V8 and stuff. But
Yeah, would you mind submit a pull request about this, or else I think I can pick it up.
I'll submit pull request.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah, I think we should just copy it over instead of depends on it because V8 might change it without any notice.
And also for me, it was like if you see like it's probably the only single test which actually using the file system module. So technically,
Yeah,
it allowed me to see because I don't want to have our testing suite to be depending on some Node.js specific library, standard library. So technically, by moving this test here, I can simply drop all these different pseudo support for FS system path and stuff. Like it makes
yeah,
the whole thing
sure.
so much easier just with one test.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool. Yeah,
Thank
please
you.
submit a pull request to update it. I think we definitely should not depend on the internal tests.
Okay. So it will be self-contained in this case. It's
Mhm.
not.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Cool.
I don't have
Um,
anything else.
yeah, please go ahead.
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Great. Then we can return the remaining 5 minutes to you back and have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice
See you on
talking to
GitHub.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you for joining the call.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.